I can help you walk again. The room went still. A wine bottle froze mid-pour. The low hum of classical piano evaporated into silence. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Clarissa Monroe narrowed her eyes from behind her pearl-studded frames, her wheelchair angled slightly away from the table. Across the room, behind the velvet barrier, stood a janitor. A bucket of water beside him. A mop in his right hand. And no fear in his voice. She blinked once. Slowly. What did you say? He stepped forward into the dim private dining suite, carefully avoiding the velvet ropes. His uniform was faded, name tag scratched. I said, I can help you walk again. Clarissa tilted her head. Her lipstick didn't move, but her eyes glimmered with disbelief. Then a sharp scoff. You clean floors for a living and now you think you can fix spines? He didn't flinch. No. I just see what others refuse to. The wine bottle clinked gently against the glass, echoing like a challenge. Clarissa gave a cold, rehearsed smile. You've got 10 seconds before I call someone who actually matters. Clarissa Monroe didn't believe in second chances. She had built an empire before she turned 30. Patents, power, private jets, the whole nine. And then one rainy October, a rooftop gala and one misplaced foot took everything. No injury, no scans, no explanation. Just silence from her legs and from every expert she paid to explain it. Conversion disorder, they said. Trauma. Something emotional. Invisible. Fake, she heard in their eyes. She fired them all. Now, 5 years later, she was still CEO of Monroe Tech. Still wealthy. Still feared. But something had cracked. And tonight, that crack widened when a man in dirty shoes dared say what doctors hadn't. You're not afraid of being broken, he said, voice low. You're afraid of remembering why. Clarissa didn't know this man. Didn't know his face. But she couldn't look away. Something in his calm unnerved her more than any diagnosis. You don't know me, she snapped. He nodded, stepping back. No, but I've cleaned your floors for 11 months. And I see more than dust. His name was Lucas Hayes. Single dad. Night janitor. Widower. He didn't tell Clarissa any of that. Not yet. He just placed a plain white card on her linen-covered table. No logo. Just a name. And a number. Clarissa stared at it like it was a loaded weapon. I'm not here for your money, Lucas said. I already have what I need. She raised an eyebrow. Oh? Enlighten me. He didn't smile. A reason. Silence. Then a bitter laugh escaped her lips. I hope your reason mops up well. Lucas paused at the door. My wife couldn't walk either. Doctors called it psychological. Said she gave up. They were wrong. Clarissa tilted her chin. Let me guess, she walked again because you believed in her? She walked again because she wanted to live. I just stayed beside her long enough for her to remember. The door clicked shut behind him. Clarissa looked at the card. Then at her hands. They were shaking. She told herself it was rage. But deep down she wasn't sure anymore. The house was quiet. Always was. Too quiet for a home, too perfect for healing. Clarissa sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, legs folded neatly in the wheelchair she now wore like armor. She stared at the card for a full hour before slipping it into a drawer. But she didn't throw it away. Outside, the city pulsed with noise, life, and motion. Everything she used to control. Now even crossing a room felt like a war. Not because her body couldn't, but because her mind refused. She didn't tell people that sometimes she felt her toes twitch in her sleep. Or that when she was alone, she screamed into pillows, begging her legs to remember. Clarissa Monroe was a billionaire. But she hadn't laughed, not really, in 5 years. Until tonight. At a janitor. And somehow it hadn't felt cruel. It had felt real. Like someone cracked her reflection. Not because he pitied her. But because he dared to see her. And that terrified her. Lucas folded laundry at 2:30 a.m. while his daughter slept. 7-year-old Sophie, freckles like her late mother and questions far older than her age. Was she sad again? Sophie asked from the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Lucas blinked. You're supposed to be asleep, kiddo? She shrugged and sat on the kitchen counter, hugging a stuffed rabbit. The lady in the chair, is she like Mommy was? Lucas swallowed hard. Kind of, he said softly. But harder. Colder. Maybe no one stayed long enough to help her feel safe. Lucas looked at her. Where'd you learn that? She tapped her head. I listen. You say it to yourself when you think I'm not here. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Sophie tilted her head. Are you gonna help her? Lucas didn't answer right away. He folded a shirt, slower this time. I'll try, he finally said. But what if she doesn't want your help? Sophie leaned close and whispered, then show her what it feels like to be chosen, even when she doesn't believe she deserves it. The next morning, Clarissa wheeled herself to the long, unforgiving mirror in her hallway. It was custom-made, tall, elegant, polished, like everything in her life. She stared. Not at her face, but at her legs. Move, she whispered. Just move. Nothing. Except, maybe, the faintest tremble in her left foot. Oh, she was imagining it. Her mind played tricks, especially when hope threatened her routines. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you weak. Still, something about that man's words clung to her like static. You pretend not to feel your legs, but they move when you're angry. Clarissa clenched her fists. Her jaw tightened. And there it was. A twitch. Barely noticeable. But real. Suddenly, she backed away from the mirror like it had burned her. She didn't want to believe it. Because belief would mean responsibility. Responsibility would mean trying. And trying again might mean failing again. And failure, for Clarissa Monroe, felt more paralyzing than anything her body ever did. Lucas didn't expect to see her again. He went back to work like normal. 3 nights a week, he mopped the same marble floors she once walked across in heels that cost more than his monthly rent. He didn't look up when the maitre d' approached him. She's back, the man whispered. Lucas blinked. Who? You know who. He looked toward the velvet curtain. There she was. Same sharp suit. Same untouched wine. Same unreadable expression. But her hands weren't trembling tonight. She'd come looking for something. Or someone. Lucas washed his hands, removed his gloves, and walked toward the room. Clarissa didn't greet him. Didn't smile. She simply said, sit. He did. Pause. Then she asked, what did it cost you? He tilted his head. To believe in someone broken. Lucas's voice was soft. Everything. But it gave me back what mattered. Clarissa held his gaze. I want to try. What? If you laugh, I walk. Lucas nodded gently. I won't laugh. I'll listen. And for the first time, so did she. 3 rules, Clarissa said the next morning as Lucas stepped into her home. Lucas looked around. The place was pristine, not lived in but displayed. All right, he nodded, setting down a simple yoga mat and a canvas duffel bag. First, you don't touch me without permission. Understood. Second, don't ask me to talk about the fall. He nodded again. Third, if I tell you to stop, you stop. Lucas met her eyes. Deal. Clarissa looked at the mat like it was an enemy. You want me to lie on the floor? No, Lucas said calmly. I want your body to remember what ground feels like. That's different. She raised an eyebrow. You think you're clever? I think I've been where you are, he replied, kneeling. Clarissa wheeled closer. Slowly. Guarded. The sun spilled across the room, highlighting the silver thread in her hair she always had colored out. Lucas unzipped the duffel. Resistance bands. Mirror. Small towel. A notebook. Clarissa eyed it. What's that? My wife's story. Clarissa swallowed. Let's begin, she whispered. Lucas didn't start with stretches. He started with silence. Close your eyes, he said. Clarissa hesitated. This isn't yoga, she muttered. No. It's breathing. Something your body forgot how to do when it got scared. She frowned. But she obeyed. For 5 minutes nothing moved. Except her chest, slowly rising and falling. Lucas sat beside her, quiet. Watching. The way her left pinky twitched when she clenched her jaw. The flicker under her right calf when a car honked outside. Little cracks in a frozen system. When was the last time you felt safe? He asked. Clarissa's breath caught. I don't know, she said after a pause. Maybe never. Lucas didn't respond with sympathy. He just nodded like he understood. Because he did. Trauma isn't always blood and bone. Sometimes, it's a slow freezing of everything soft inside you. And sometimes, to heal, you just need someone to sit with the cold long enough for it to melt. Clarissa opened her eyes. And whispered, I felt something. Lucas smiled softly. So did I. They met every other evening. No cameras. No staff. No judgment. Just Clarissa, Lucas, and a stubborn inch of space between defiance and surrender. It wasn't about walking, not yet. It was about noticing. The way her left knee jerked slightly when she was startled. The way her spine arched subtly when he mentioned her ex-husband's name. Clarissa hated it. Hated being seen. Hated needing help. But hated more how much she looked forward to his knock on the door. He never tried to fix her. Just mirrored what was already fighting to be found. Try moving your foot, he said during one session. She didn't speak. Just stared at her leg. Lucas placed a mirror by her ankle, reflecting her right foot. Clarissa watched the illusion. And somehow her left toe twitched, trying to imitate. Her breath caught. It was tiny. Barely visible. But real. She blinked fast. Lucas didn't celebrate. He just met her eyes. You're not broken, he said. Your body just forgot it belonged to you. Clarissa hadn't touched her old journals in years. They sat locked in her office drawer, just beneath the files no one else was allowed to see. But that night after Lucas left, she opened one. It was from the year before the fall. Page after page of restless thoughts. Deadlines, acquisitions, meetings, ambition. But somewhere in the middle, a single line. I'm exhausted from pretending to be unbreakable. She slammed the book shut. But the words echoed. Lucas wasn't trying to heal her legs. He was healing the lie she'd wrapped herself in. That being powerful meant being untouchable. That asking for help meant surrender. And it made her furious. Not at him. At herself. For feeling something. For letting a janitor into the fortress she'd built. She wheeled to the window and looked down at the city. So many people pretending to be fine. So many of them walking. But not moving forward. And suddenly she didn't feel so alone. Lucas found the sketch folded into his jacket pocket 2 days later. Sophie had drawn it. In crayon. 2 stick figures. One tall with a mop. One in a wheelchair. They were holding hands. Above it in shaky lettering it read, Hope doesn't come in a doctor's coat. Lucas stared at it for a long time. He didn't show it to Clarissa. Not yet. But he tucked it into the notebook he brought to every session. That evening, Clarissa met him in the sitting room already on the mat. It startled him. You're early, he said. I had a dream, she murmured. I was standing. Not walking. Just standing. And I didn't feel scared. Lucas lowered himself beside her. And how did that feel? She blinked. Like I belonged to myself again. Lucas didn't say anything. He just opened the notebook, found a blank page and handed her a pen. Write it down. So it doesn't forget you either. She hesitated. Then wrote. For the first time in 5 years. Progress isn't linear. Clarissa had begun to hope, quietly. The mirror exercises were working. The micro-movements growing more consistent. She felt things. She believed. And then came the bad day. A board meeting. A hostile acquisition attempt. A mention of Harrison, her ex. And suddenly her body shut down. The twitching stopped. Her limbs went still. Numb. Like the old days. Lucas arrived that night to find her curled in the chair, wine glass untouched, eyes hollow. I can't do this, she said flatly. I thought I could. I was wrong. Lucas knelt in front of her. This happens. It doesn't mean you failed. Her voice cracked. Then what does it mean? That you're human. And you're healing. Clarissa looked away. I hate this. I hate needing anything. Lucas gently placed his hand near hers. Not touching, just close. You don't need to be okay tonight. You just need to show up again tomorrow. She didn't reply. But the next morning she was on the mat before he arrived. Clarissa didn't mean to talk about it. But trauma has its own clock. And that morning, as she balanced on the edge of her chair, her hands trembling on the armrests, it spilled out. "He left me there." Lucas froze. She stared straight ahead, unblinking. "The night of the accident. Harrison. I told him I couldn't move. He stepped over me and called a car service." Lucas didn't interrupt. "He told the press I slipped. That I was drunk. Said he still loved me." She exhaled sharply, tears sliding silently. "They all believed him. And I stopped fighting. Not because I was paralyzed, but because I felt worthless." Lucas swallowed hard. "That wasn't your fault." Clarissa turned to him, voice raw. "Then why did it feel like I deserved it?" Lucas looked her in the eye. "Because people who hurt us teach us lies. But you've unlearned so many already. And this one, it doesn't get to stay." Clarissa closed her eyes. And nodded. "What?" Like a dam cracking open. The change wasn't dramatic. No miraculous standing. No swelling music. Just a breath. A moment. Clarissa stood barefoot on the edge of the mat. Lucas crouched beside her, guiding without touching. Her fingers gripped the frame of the mirrored wall. Toes wiggled. Calves trembled. Then, slowly, her knees unlocked. For 2 seconds, maybe 3, she bore her own weight. And then collapsed, not in failure but into laughter. Actual laughter. Not cold. Not bitter. Real. Lucas caught her gently, lowering her back into the chair. "I did it," she gasped, half crying, half smiling. "You did," he whispered, eyes glistening. Clarissa looked at her legs like they were new. Not broken. Not forgotten. Just waking up. "I was wrong about you," she said. Lucas chuckled. "I get that a lot." "No," she said, softer now. "I was wrong about me." In that moment she wasn't a billionaire. She wasn't a patient. She was just a woman. Learning to trust her body, and herself, again. Clarissa stood again 2 days later. Longer this time. With Lucas just behind her, not holding, not pushing, just ready. As she lowered herself back into the chair, breathless but smiling, she asked, "Why do you do this?" Lucas paused. "My wife. Car. She was like you." Clarissa studied him. "Was?" He nodded, quiet. "She passed. Car accident in Haiti. She was volunteering there after she got better." Clarissa's smile faded. "She walked again?" "She did. But that wasn't the miracle." He tapped his chest. "The miracle was that she forgave herself before she did." Clarissa blinked. "She blamed herself too?" Lucas gave a soft smile. "We all do. Until we don't." There was a silence, one that didn't feel empty, just deep. Clarissa whispered, "What was her name again?" "Kara Hayes." She let the name sit between them. Then after a long pause, "Thank you, Lucas." He looked up. "For what?" "For not seeing me as broken. Even when I did." Later that week, Clarissa found herself alone in front of the mirror again. Only this time she wasn't waiting for proof. She just wanted to see herself. Not the mogul. Not the woman in the wheelchair. Clarissa. And what she saw wasn't flawless. There were dark circles under her eyes. Wrinkles that had nothing to do with age. But also, softness. Like she'd finally stopped fighting herself. She closed her eyes, let her shoulders drop, and reached for the frame beside her. One foot twitched, then the other. And suddenly her knees straightened, and held. For 5 seconds. Then 10. No one was there to see it. No cameras. No applause. Just her. Standing. By herself. When she sat back down, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She smiled. And for the first time, she believed the truth Lucas had offered all along. She was never broken. Just buried. Now, she was rising. Lucas tucked Sophie into bed that night. The rain tapped softly on the windows, and the glow of her nightlight painted the walls with dancing stars. "Did you help the lady today?" Sophie asked, eyes heavy but curious. Lucas brushed her hair from her forehead. "She helped herself today," he said. Sophie smiled. "That's even better." Lucas nodded. "Yeah, it really is. Will she come visit us someday?" He hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe." Sophie rolled onto her side. "I hope she does." She looked lonely when I saw her. Lucas looked at his daughter. So small. So knowing. Maybe she'll come when she's ready. Sophie yawned. She's not scary anymore. Lucas chuckled. No. Just scared. Like Mommy was? Lucas blinked. Yeah, he whispered. Like Mommy was. Then he turned off the light and sat by the door for a moment, listening to the rhythm of his daughter's breathing. Healing didn't always look like walking. Sometimes it sounded like peace. Clarissa didn't tell Lucas she was leaving. She just left a note in the notebook he'd brought every session. The same notebook that once held Kara's words, now filled with her own. The final page read, "You showed me how to walk again. But more than that, you showed me how to stay when I want to run. How to feel when I want to freeze. How to begin again, even when I'm terrified. No name. No goodbye. Just a key. To a new physical therapy center. A project she'd quietly funded." Lucas walked through it weeks later. Sunlit walls, warm colors, no mirrors unless requested. The name above the entrance read, "The Kara Center for Healing." And beneath it, "Every soul deserves a second chance, even when they don't believe it yet." Lucas stood there a long time. He didn't cry. He just smiled, the way people do when something painful finally turns beautiful. Clarissa wasn't lost anymore. She was just somewhere new. It was a quiet Sunday. The lobby of the Kara Center buzzed with low voices and soft footsteps. Lucas was wiping down the front desk, lost in thought, when the door opened. He looked up, and there she was, Clarissa. No chair. No heels. Just flats. Simple. Graceful. She walked, carefully but fully, toward him. Each step deliberate. Each one hers. Lucas stood frozen. Clarissa stopped in front of him. They didn't hug. Didn't cry. She just whispered, "I laughed when you said you'd help me walk." Lucas smiled, eyes misting. "I remember." She blinked fast. "Then I cried." He nodded. "You needed to." Clarissa looked around. "This place, it's for people like me?" "No," Lucas said. "It's for people like us." She held his gaze. Then for the first time, no guards, no mask, she reached out and took his hand. Not for balance. Just to feel human again. And together they walked. Sometimes the strongest step is the one taken after the fall.